there's something really powerful about getting connected to that spiritual energy, that driving force, that life force that some people connect with when they're really young. Some people connect in their 20s. Some people don't connect to that until they're 50, 60 or older. But when you do, it really does unlock another view or vision for life. And I know I've gone through that journey myself, a variety of different experiences, including something we talked about offline, somebody who had actually healed me from an ailment that no doctor could figure out how to solve and really released years and years of pain, all the way to, working in Joe Dispenza's space and meditating and going deep and connecting to something that you can't even really describe other than feeling like you're connected to source. Welcome back to the Investor Mindset Podcast. I'm your host, Steven Pesavento, and today I've got Mario Brainovic in the studio. How you doing today, Mario?
Doing good. Happy to be here. Happy to be having this conversation with you.
Yeah, I'm excited to talk with you because it's really interesting. We got connected by a mutual friend who I have a lot of admiration for and from, and it's fascinating because, Mario, you've built incredible businesses. You've had exits, selling to Walgreens. You've then gone back on this journey, building a company that's super unique. And so what I want to talk about today is really that experience in business, what it was like to sell your company, what it was like to exit the thing that you had built, talk a little bit about your investment philosophy, maybe what you've focused on, putting that money to work in. And I know one of those is the company you've built. So before we get into all of that, I want to start out by looking back, way back in your life. What events or influences from your childhood, Mario, shaped and influenced who you are today?
There are many. Well, I would say when I was I was in early 20s, I started doing this spiritual practice, which really kind of led me to a place where I started experiencing more life within. And this kind of changed the whole trajectory of my life. I was doing that for a while, and I always wanted to do businesses that would either support somebody in bringing something of value to the world, or to directly create something that would either help people through their health or their well-being. This actually just kind of propelled me in that way, because I truly believe that when you're doing something of true service to the world, that then you're supported in a powerful way, something which is kind of even beyond what we're conscious. When you're really serving, or when you're really trying to make people feel good, then it's going to be effortless. At least that was my experience, even when there was a lot of effort involved. And of course, that happens daily. But still, there is this drive and there is this energy which really kind of gets you going.
Yeah, I think there's something really powerful about getting connected to that spiritual energy, that driving force, that life force that some people connect with when they're really young. Some people connect in their 20s. Some people don't connect to that until they're 50, 60 or older. But when you do, it really does unlock another view or vision for life. And I know I've gone through that journey myself, a variety of different experiences, including something we talked about offline, somebody who had actually healed me from an ailment that no doctor could figure out how to solve and really released years and years of pain, all the way to, working in Joe Dispenza's space and meditating and going deep and connecting to something that you can't even really describe other than feeling like you're connected to source. So what was it for you that was that link or that bridge that opened up that visibility to connecting to that energy that ended up driving you to build, some incredible things in the world?
Just like you mentioned, very spiritual practices. So I was very deep into yoga. I was very deep into Qi Gong. And all of this kind of unlocked tremendous, I would say, river of life, of energy within me. And that kind of really changed everything for me. I started looking on everything in a completely different way. When you experience something like this, and I know that you have, because when you do, when you really, even for a moment, when you touch this space inside of you, it just kind of, you're basically done. It's like a seed that was planted inside, and then it's reversible. It just takes your life in the best possible way. So this happened to me, and this is actually the number one thing in my life even today. So this is what drives me. So when you learn to enter into this space of infinite possibility within yourself, then there are no limits whatsoever. And if you actually then engage in any form of work or business from that place, your power rises exponentially, but it's effortless. It's not even like I wouldn't even call it a power. I would call it an infinite support in whatever you're doing in life.
Yeah. Your philosophy reminds me a lot of Michael Singer in the sense that when you connect to that, things just happen, and they happen with a lot less effort. And as a result, you've built some incredible businesses. You've had wild success. And when people hear about like a spiritual practice, they hear about these things, they hear about the things we're talking about. A lot of times people connect it to like woo-woo, like not focused on creating value in the world. And it's just about going into solitude and meditation. But yet the result for Michael Singer was incredible business and financial success, and the result for you has been the same. So let's talk about that business that you built and sold. Was that the first business, or what led you to building this pharmaceutical company that eventually was acquired by Walgreens?
Well, actually, this wasn't my first business. So I actually owned, and I was a CEO of advertising agency and a production house. And I love that work. I love being creative. I love kind of to create. I was created a lot of TV ads, and that whole space was really kind of gratifying for me, because it really kind of allows you to be super creative. And I had a company, open a company in UK. I did a lot of work for US market as well, European market, and I loved the whole space, and it really allowed me to express myself creatively. But as I mentioned, I was always super passionate about health and wellness, and after a while, I just kind of leaned in to the health and wellness space, and use my advertising skill and vision, let's call it that way, to use it in building natural pharmaceutical, this company. It's really interesting how the whole spiritual element actually came about. I was meditating, and I was deciding in myself, okay, what I want to do next. And I was thinking, okay, I want to either it's going to be a natural medicine or a supplement or a technology, something that will truly help people. And up until that point, I was not introduced in any of it. So I had zero connection to that world whatsoever. And 3 weeks later, it was just 3 weeks, I actually entered into this space of bliss, of connection, which was really extraordinary while I was meditating on it. And 3 weeks later, I met a dude that actually was struggling. He had really amazing natural medicine, but he really had an issue really making it big. And I remember pharma wholesaler at that time. I actually bought the part of the company, and I kind of went in, and there was a presentation where I told these large pharma company that were distributing, and they kind of did marketing on it. I told them we're going to increase the sales by 150% within the next 3 months, and they laughed their ass off.
Yeah.
Kind of, there's just no way you're going to do it. And we actually pumped it up to a 900%.
Wow.
Within only 3 months.
Wow.
So I really had a skill of how to do it. I just kind of wanted a project that I would really kind of throw myself at. And when you're doing, again, things from this space, from really when you're really enthusiastic and you know you're actually helping people, this basically changes everything. At least it changed for me. So anyhow, then I kind of added many new medicines into the company and expanded the whole thing. Then this large pharma company, they were asking me for kind of advice. What can they do with their other medicines or supplements? But anyhow.
What did you approximately buy into that company for? Like just general range type numbers? Was it a couple hundred thousand?
It wasn't.
Million?
Yeah, it was nothing significant in terms of millions, but the potential of it was extraordinary. I saw the potential. It was really, really powerful, and it was actually very surprising to me that the company that actually ran the whole thing didn't understand the potential, didn't invest in it, or didn't see actually there is something extraordinary there. I created with just this one medicine, I didn't actually take a cut of any other company or brand in the space. I created 50% of an entire category with this just one medicine.
Wow.
So it was really, really kind of a cool thing to observe, because I really didn't take anybody's piece of bread, so to speak. I just created the whole space for myself.
That's super fascinating. When it came to growing that company as rapidly as you did, what were some of the strategies that you ended up using that you were able to pull the levers to make those changes happen?
That's a really interesting question. I realized that now we're actually entering the whole advertising and marketing space, but I'm guessing we can talk about this in this environment.
Yeah.
So I kind of knew that if I'm going to create visibility for my brand, I needed to advertise at times other brands are not advertising, so that I would have actually much bigger visibility. And, you know, in pharma usually is not advertising in the what's called low times. Let's say they actually spend all of their budget through December, and then January, February, and March, they're kind of on the low end. And also during the summer, during the July and August. And so my main advertising, like really powerful, I was really kind of all over the place with my ads exactly through that period of time. And my visibility was extraordinary.
That's really interesting. Yeah, by buying ads during times where there's less competition, your visibility goes up, more people hear about the product. And you know, I'm super familiar with your current product, which we'll talk about in a few minutes. What was the products that you guys were selling in that company, and why was it something that Walgreens, you know, a big major national corporation, was interested in acquiring?
Well, I only kind of came with my whole passion was I don't want to be in anybody else's lane. So the whole thing was to have medicines that are unique in a way that no other medicine can actually, in that particular way, compete with it. So there was, I know it's not kind of easy to stumble upon that. But again, if you set your intention and if you really kind of want to have an impact, positive impact on the world, then it just happens. Just like I mentioned, I didn't, to be honest, I really didn't do anything in terms of I went out and did something, so to speak, that I was actively seeking. It was always kind of setting intention for it within. And when opportunity presented itself, then just to go 100% all the way to it and through it. That worked for me. So I kind of learned just to follow this. Rumi, famous poet, said once, when you do things from your soul, you feel a river moving in you, a joy. This is something that I've always followed. So even if nothing happened or happens after it, at least I lived to the fullest, so to speak. And my experience is that it always results in something extraordinary.
And so the product was what specifically?
It was number one, the most effective hemorrhoid treatment in the world today.
Wow. So you went after something, it's not sexy, but it's a huge pain point.
No.
And
exactly.
And people need to solve that problem. And there wasn't a lot of other, really positive solutions.
All the other solutions were just kind of easing the pain, but they were not solving the problem. My medicine actually, in 85% of people, completely alleviated all of the symptoms.
And so you build this business, you come in, you do the thing that you're the best at, you're doing it from a place of connectivity with intention, which I can't underline enough. People overlook this so much, but when you get aligned with the right reasoning, things just start magically happening. Like, it really does make perfect sense from my perspective. And I know a lot of other people won't get it, but just knowing that it's possible. So you do this. What led you to wanting to exit and sell the business?
Well, to be honest, I wasn't the only owner of the company. So we started having, let's say, different visions about the future of the company. And it came to a place where I just intuitively felt, okay, it's time to move on. And when I actually suggested it, it just happened very fast, which was, again, another sign that everything was happening exactly the way. And I'm super thrilled and happy that it happened. I'm just overjoyed that it happened that way. And actually, we sold the company, and the whole deal was signed off, and transfer, everything happened before COVID. Because COVID kind of did a lot of damage, and so I was super happy that kind of everything happened just before that. So I was super,
So you get a lump sum payoff, the company sells for 50, 100 million or more.
I was super happy that how everything happened, and I could only be grateful. So that's the thing. And then, I'm a young man, and I'm kind of full of life. I don't want to kind of stop. But my whole thing was, I wanted to work only on something which truly serves everyone and everything. That's why, in the same way I got connected to Dr. Eric Larker and Dolf Zantinge, two Dutch scientists that created this extraordinary technology that I'm now kind of, this miracle of this water that I'm now bringing to the world. So I'm, again, super grateful for it.
Yeah, and I'm super excited to talk about it because I think it's really fascinating. So you have the exit. Now you've got wealth like you probably haven't had before, I could imagine.
Yes.
And, before that time, had you been making investments, or once you have that kind of wealth, investing is kind of a key focus. What was the strategy that you used? Did you have a great wealth manager who kind of went into the public markets? Did you invest in private equity or private real estate or private credit? Did you invest
in other businesses? To be honest, I'm going to be very boring there. I did nothing of a kind. My whole thing was always to create something and to do it myself. So I actually never received even $1 of any investment. My whole thing was to create everything myself. So, and the same thing is, I never went in various ways. I'm kind of an all-in kind of guy. If I love something, if I see something, if something truly excites me, then I just throw myself at it all the way.
Makes sense. A lot of people are like that. So your investment philosophy, we're just going to keep the money in the bank in cash, and I'm going to wait to see where I can either live off of it or I can pump it into a new business that I'm passionate about.
There are many things that I want to, now I'm actually in the position where I have a lot of projects, let's call it that way, that I want to really invest my time and money in. I'm actually having several projects now which are really kind of cool and big. That are not connected directly to the NLM water project, which we're going to touch upon now. But I have this vision of creating wellness centers all over the planet that are really going to bring people back to themselves, and also to create this new places of life for people. People are now living in the cities, and I believe that in the next period of time, it's going to become difficult. I would like to create this extended high-tech, let's call them villages, where self-sustained people who really kind of are contributing to life and to the world, where they can all come together and actually create these hubs of extraordinary creativity that can help everything and everybody. So that's the vision.
I think it's really powerful, and I want to underline for the listeners, just so they're clear on it. Your philosophy is, I'm going to be driven and I'm going to go in the direction that I'm called to. I'm an all-in person. I don't need to get distracted by making investments outside of the areas where I have the specialty. So I'm going to keep that money in cash, or I'm going to put it into businesses or projects that I'm passionate about, that I care about, that I want to make those investments in, because I know I'm going to be taken care of either way, because you're not being driven by scarcity or uncertainty. You're being driven because you know at the core that you're headed in the right direction. And the truth is, there's no right or wrong way to do it. There's no right or wrong way to put your money to work. It really comes down to what's right for you, and knowing that there is better and worse ways, but you got to follow that intuition. Yeah.
100%. You said it right. That's exactly how I kind of feel it and see it. I kind of, money is just an extension of your energy. So I believe it should always be put into something that really makes you sing from within. And then even if nothing happens out of it, you're still going to be happy, and you're still going to be glad that you participated, because it really is something of value. And in my experience, these kind of things they always produce so much more.
Yeah. So let's talk about the next phase. Probably the biggest investment you made with that capital that you received from that exit was into this company that is a water company that has a frequency. That frequency is healing. That frequency brings some really powerful things. So why don't you first off tell us what it is, and why it's real and it's not frou-frou. You know, as David Asprey talks about how powerful it's been for him, and he can't understand how it works or why it works, but that he can feel that it's working. So tell us what it is that you're working on today.
So we realized in our research that water currently exists in what we call a chaotic state. So it's still H2O, but those H2O molecules, they're actually moving chaotically and randomly and crashing into each other constantly. But since all of this is happening on an atomic level, nobody's really aware of that. What we found is the way to bring harmony into that chaos. When you use our technology, those same chaotic H2O molecules, they link together in a liquid crystalline structure. Water enters in what we call a full spectrum coherent state. And through this unique process, water becomes alive. It becomes empowered, and it can do so much for our health and wellness. As I already mentioned, we did double-blind, placebo-controlled studies where we proved the remarkable effect on all biological systems. So, for instance, just to cut the long story short, we actually tested ATP, adenosine triphosphate, which is the primary energy currency of the cell. It's directly responsible for powering the majority of cellular processes in our body, including muscle contraction, nerve impulse transmission, biochemical reactions. Every heartbeat, every breath depends on ATP. And what we measured is actually ATP levels. Would they change if people drink this water? And what we saw, to again cut the long story short, double-blind placebo-controlled study, that there is a 20% rise in overall mitochondrial energy of the body over the placebo. When you calculate the placebo in, that's almost 1/3 of your entire energy rises just by drinking this water. And we are not talking about Red Bull energy here. We're talking about actual mitochondrial energy. This has really far implications, because scientists now agree that the key cause of cellular aging is the decline in mitochondrial function. And we proved that just by drinking this water, your mitochondrial function increases more than significantly. So this was one study. We proved that your microbiome, the state of your microbiome improves. The state of your brain waves improve. So basically any area of your health gets touched just by drinking this water.
Yeah, it's so fascinating because obviously if somebody could take it as a pill, almost everybody in the world would be taking that very quickly because they would see that result, they would feel it. What's been the biggest hurdle in getting this technology out to the world?
You mentioned it. You know, all great truths start as blasphemies. Yeah. People don't understand it. They just don't get it. That's why we're investing so much. I mean, we're talking about now altogether without me. I joined, I don't know how many years ago now, but the whole project is 15 years in the making. Over 50 scientists on 3 continents and millions of euros and dollars invested in the research. So that's why we're investing in research, so that the science becomes irrefutable. Everybody can just take a look at the data. 2 of those studies are being published now in a peer-reviewed scientific magazine. So this is all that speaks for itself. That's why we're investing so much in it, so that when people purchase the technology, they know what they're doing. And then actually they get the benefit, so it becomes just a one beautiful, beautiful thing. Yeah. And you know, it's you mentioned Dave Asprey. I love Dave. Dave is an extraordinary guy. He's the father of biohacking. Water is such an amazing, it's a no-brainer biohacking tool. It's not a tool because you have to drink water anyhow. And just by drinking a different kind of water, you have these amazing health benefits.
Yeah, I think the underlining kind of theme here is that for you in life and in business has been really driven by, I want to do good in the world. I want to connect to source and purpose and this energy, and I'm going to be driven by that. And as a result, you've been introduced and found these different opportunities that have allowed you to make that kind of an impact. And this one in particular is really fascinating because nobody can figure out why. Nobody can figure out why it's working or what it's doing, but it's clear to see that it is making a result. It is clear to see that if people start following this path, that obviously can have, you know, great results for them. From a business standpoint, how's business?
Business is doing amazing. Again, it was a hurdle, just like you mentioned in the beginning. But the whole thing is, when something is of great value, you just have to work on it till you find a way. And the whole thing here is education. You just need to educate. It's not a regular kind of advertising thing when you put a photo and you put a tagline on it and you offer it to people and then they buy. It won't work that way. It needs a lot of expertise. It needs a lot of explanation. But when people get it, then they actually buy the product and then they get the benefit. So this is the circle. And it was a hurdle, so to speak, to kind of, and it's still kind of an ongoing thing. But we're in a much different space now because a lot of people already tried. We're getting thousands and thousands and thousands of letters all over the planet because we're selling it all over. And now it's really reaching a point. I want to bring this and make this a household item everywhere on the planet. Because if people buy it, they will get the benefit. Their whole state of being is going to change. And once you experience that, you really kind of rely on it.
Well, I think one of the key things with something like this, Mario, is that when people have an experience and they can feel it and they can see it, then they believe it, you know? And it's until you have that experience that, or somebody that you know has that experience. For example, not even in preparation for this interview today, I was in Salt Lake 2 weeks ago, and I'm standing in the kitchen with a good friend of mine, and he pulls out this little wand, and it happens to be your product. And I didn't even connect the dots until in preparation for today's interview. But because of that friend of mine who I trust shows me this thing, I say, hey, well, I should look into that. And I think the more people that have that connection, the more likely that other people are going to follow suit. But it is kind of an interesting product because it's unclear why it's doing what it's doing. So let's step one step back, away from the business, away from the investing. How are you actually taking water and changing the structure so that you can then deliver the kind of results that you're talking about?
Now we're going to jump down the rabbit hole, scientific rabbit hole. So we realized in our research that water always picks up the most dominant frequency of its environment. So wherever your water was, whatever your water was surrounded with, it's going to pick up that particular frequency. When we realized this, our whole quest was to create the most dominant positive frequency water there is, because we knew that if we would expose any other water to it, since water always picks up the most dominant frequency of its environment, all the water will become it. So it took a while for us to create what we are calling now the mother water. And what we do actually, we take this mother water and put it in a crystal wand. You've seen the wand, you see how the product looks. So this crystal wand actually has two purposes. One, of course, to create the barrier between the mother water, which is inside, and the rest of the water that you're swirling it through. But more importantly, crystal serves as a superconductor. It allows the frequency of mother water to pass through without any loss. So in an effect, when you swirl the analemma, this wand, through the glass of water, any H2O molecule that comes into close proximity to the mother water, which is inside, starts to mimic its exact structure. So in an effect, after just 20 seconds of swirling, you get a glass of mother water. I always like to say to people, just to kind of explain them in a better way. For instance, if you take a light bulb, which has 5 watts, it will give you some light. But if you take 5-watt laser, so the same power, but 5-watt laser, which is the coherent form of light, you can drill a hole through your table. So this is the difference. Is in the same way, when you bring water in this particular state, its true power is being unleashed. And when you drink it, you have all the effects. Maybe I can just mention one study. We are not going to go all the way in, but just to explain to people the difference. Since this water is an electromagnetic phenomenon, as I already mentioned, we were thinking, okay, what's the most electromagnetic part of human biology that we can very accurately measure? Our brainwaves. It's very easy to measure that. We took 2 genetically identical twins just to make a gold standard study. We put QEEG equipment on them, and we gave to one twin regular water, to other one analemma water. Doctor administering the water didn't know which one was which, and twins didn't know which one was which. And we monitored their brain waves in real time. And a twin that took regular water, we saw no change in his brain waves. Literally nothing changed. Couple of sips, everything stayed the same. Almost as soon as the twin that took a couple of sips of analemma water, there was almost instant better connection between the left and right hemisphere of the brain, and almost instant harmonizing effect on the brain waves. We were actually very surprised by how fast the effect happened. And there was a really powerful and irrefutable proof that something biologically remarkable happens when a human drinks this water. We actually repeated the experiment 3 weeks later, and we gave analemma water to the other twin, and we saw exactly the same phenomenon. While the first twin, now that took regular water, there was no change in the brainwaves. So this is just wanted to share a small insight. It's really fascinating, and people who are sensitive, they can immediately, after one sip, they can, okay, there is something, they cannot really kind of put their finger on it, but it's different for them. We tested short-term results and we tested long-term results, and the results were always really remarkable. So I'm telling you, I'm super grateful to be part of this project, because it really has an effect on people in various ways. And when you witness that, it's really extraordinary.
Well, I think what's really fascinating about this is that I've been kind of a nut, definitely not at Dave Asprey's level, but a little bit of a nut about health and optimization and finding any kind of strategy or hack or tool that can help me be able to think more clearly or feel better or be in better alignment. And if there's something that's going to help move the needle, I'm 100% going to be using it. And I think what I've found is that a lot of people, once they start experiencing the difference of doing what their body is telling them they need to do, get more sleep, eat better, drink better water, at the very least, drink filtered water. So many people I know are drinking tap, and it's crazy. And I did my whole life. I never knew the difference. But once you start going down that path of optimization, you start realizing that not only can you show up better in your family and in your relationships, but you can show up better in your work and your business. And so if somebody's driven by, hey, I want to feel better, I want to be a better father, amazing. Go and do the stuff, try the different strategies, find what works for you. But for those people who were like me when I got started in this space, were driven by the productivity, by the boost, by the excitement of what I've been building and what that feels like to do, it becomes an absolute no-brainer. And I think there's a lot of people are starting to get turned on to different technologies, even if they can't fully understand it, that are willing to try these kind of things. And so one of the things that's interesting about your product is that it's quite expensive for such a small vial of water, but I understand it takes a lot to get it there. So talk to me about that process and why does it take so long to create what you end up, providing to the world?
So just so you know, it's actually very cheap. And we decided to keep it that way because we wanted to make a product, even though it's really expensive for us to make it, we wanted to price it in a way that every single family on this planet could afford it. And the thing is, you buy it once and it creates coherent water for you for life. So it's just one thing. It's not a recurring return. You just buy it once.
It's a bad business model, Mario, but
it's a bad business model. Yeah. I agree. But the key element, if you sell 100 million of them, then it's a good business model. But even 100 million is not enough because there are 7 billion people on the planet. And my whole thing is to create this as a household item, something that everybody will use because they do get extraordinary benefits. So that's my kind of my whole, and the mission statement of actually our company is to make all bodies of water on this planet coherent. We already developed this eco-friendly technology that we want to install in the wells of the biggest rivers. We want to bring it to the governmental level, because when we do, the microbiome of the soil, of the water, everything would change. Life would change, animal health, plant health would change, and all of this water will end up in the oceans. And after a couple of years, all the oceans would come into a coherent state. And then we would actually enter into, the whole planet will enter into coherent state. And I'm telling you, when things are in harmony, that harmony has a powerful, powerful effect on anything that lives. Well, so this is the mission statement. Yeah.
Well, it's an incredible mission. And Mario, thanks for joining me. It's fascinating because you're a man who's built a business that's sold for a lot of money, and yet money has never been a big driver for you. At the core of it was always about following this intuition, this path. And I think for those of you who are listening, we'll really be able to take some inspiration away to finding what is that thing that you can connect to that can drive you forward, where the outcome is all that matters. And getting there, the ironic thing about getting there is that all of the other things you want, money and happiness and connection, relationships and impact, will all follow when you get connected to that. So Mario, share with people where they can follow you or check out what you're doing. And
please just go to coherent-water.com. That's the place where you can get introduced to our technology. You can jump on our newsletter if you want to follow. We're doing a lot of studies all the time. So it's really an emerging thing. We're going in various directions. So if you want to follow us, this is the way. You can go to Analemma Instagram, where you can see a lot of the work that we've been doing. This is a way to kind of track. And there are many things actually that are going to be coming in the pipeline. All actually for the highest good of all, highest good of everybody. So, there are so many things on this planet which really help people. And for some reason, I see that not a lot of them find a way to people in general. And I'm very passionate about that. That's why your kind of podcast, or any podcast, is a great place, so that we spread the information to people of what can really help them. This is what you're helping. You're helping people build their businesses to the next level, and then they can afford to buy things for themselves that can enhance their experience of life. And then that circle grows.
Amazing. Well, Mario, it was great having you on. Thank you all for listening, and we'll see you on the next one. Thanks for listening to the Investor Mindset Podcast. Make sure to hit that subscribe button. And if you'd like to watch another, here's one up top. And here's another great video right down below.